Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Sunny Galt with the New Mommy Media Network, and we are partnering together with the Parent Connection and Scripps Health for a very important hangout today. We're talking about potty training, also known as toilet teaching. We'll go into that a little more in just a bit. But we love partnering with the Parent Connection and Scripps Health to do these hangouts, real important topics. If you'd like some more information on the Parent Connection, you can always visit their website at sandiegoparent.com. They've got a lot of great activities for parents here in the San Diego and just a great resource of information for parents locally here in San Diego. All right, so let's meet our expert who is joining us today. Noni Levi has been in this business and coaching parents on potty training and how to toilet teach their children for over 20 years. Noni, I'm going to toss it over to you. Tell us a little bit more about your experience with this.
Well, it was actually the first talk I ever gave for Parent Connection, and it would have been about 24 years ago. And so my son at the time would have been about 6 months. I hadn't even started the process with him. So it was the first talk we ever gave. And then from there, I was teaching parenting and doing lots of talks for, the last 20 years, 23 years.
All right. So Noni, let's just dive into this, right? How do you know if your child is ready for toilet teaching?
Well, one of the first things you have to know is that a child's bladder is not even mature enough to even start the process till 18 months. So many parents in my generation, or how I was raised, you'll hear them say, oh, you were toilet taught by the time you were a year, and you were toilet taught by 13 months. That was the parent was trained, not the child. So a child is not physically capable to even start this process till 18 months. So that's the first marker you have to notice or know about your child. So at 18 months, you would start to look to see if they're ready and if they're showing signs of readiness. Their bladder's mature enough, but again, you want to see other things, forms of readiness. And I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about that, Sunny. There's daytime. First they're going to have nighttime bowel control. So they're waking up in the morning and they're not having a BM in their diaper. Then they're going to most children will have daytime bowel control. Then next will come daytime urine control, and then nighttime is the last for children to not wet at night. So you could actually have a child who gets toilet taught, is wearing underpants by, say, age 2 or even 18 months, but does not become nighttime dry until about 4 or 5 years. So some kids start the daytime process early, and then nighttime doesn't come till much later. Some kids, like my son, he was toilet taught by about 4, and about a month later he was nighttime dry. So the nighttime dryness comes later, and it's usually around bladder size still not getting large enough, and heavy sleepers. Children who are really heavy sleepers are going to be those that are not nighttime dry till at least by 5.
How important is it for you to prepare your child? And I know we do have a whole handout on this on our website, but can you give us some, just basic information?
Yeah. And I think, all of us, even as adults, we need preparation when we do anything. So to think that your child, just because they're ready and they've shown signs of readiness and they're over 18 months, doesn't mean they need any information. All of us benefit from some information. And some kids who tend to be a little more slow to warm to something, they need maybe more information and more time. But you can do things like when a child starts to if you have your child start to make a face and start to cry right before they defecate. You can say, oh, your body's now having a poo. That's your body telling you it's time, it's time to have a poo-poo. So having them physically, because this is a bodily function, it's what all of us do. So having them recognize that their body is starting to release a BM into their diaper is one of the things you can do. You also want to teach toddlers the vocabulary that you and your family wants to use, and that's in the handout. The example I used to always like to give in the class is, whatever you tell your children, they will announce loudly at the Target bathroom stall. So you want to choose your words wisely. So if your husband likes to say, I'm taking a dump, just realize your child might say, I'm taking a dump loudly, or might smell someone else having a bowel movement and announce that someone's doing that. So you want to choose your words wisely. It's really good if they can observe other people doing it. So, if they have older siblings, preschool, so many kids are in preschool now. So a lot of times preschools take everybody to the bathroom at a certain time, even those that aren't using have in underwear yet and fully toilet taught. If you're a family that is a little more modest, this is the time where you want to open the door, especially to the gender that you're trying to teach it to. So you want to let them see other people using the bathroom. You want to mention advantages. Instead of having your diaper changed, you'll just have to wipe your bottom. Another way to prepare children is books. I'm a big believer in books. It's a good way for children to be able to get used to what's going to happen, and also while they're in the process to revisit so that they can, understand that. As far as a potty, any potty will do. I do make one recommendation. They usually put a little deflector cup on the potties for little boys, not to, have their penis put the spray the urine everywhere. You want to take that off because a lot of little boys will sit down on it. They'll hurt themselves and it makes them a little scared of actually using the potty. But other than that, they come with magazine racks. I also would not get one that glows or makes music, because kids at that age are very, it's magical. It's fun. So if they realize that when they released a stool into the potty, it made this little music, boy, if I throw my car in, it will do it again, and you might have a mess you don't want. So it's really what the family's choice is. A lot of people ask the question, should I get the one that's on the floor or should I put the one that's on the larger toilet? It's whatever the family would like. There are some children who are really afraid of falling into the toilet, and they make little fold up kind of rims you can put on public toilets. So for those children who are afraid of that, there's also some children who are afraid of flushing, the noise of flushing. And we have so many automatic flushing toilets now. And one mom told me what they do is they put a Post-it note over the flushing. So it won't flush when the child gets up, or that noise won't go off. So other than that, really no recommendations on a potty or anything. And again, they can reference back to, there's handouts on this. But the preparation period really is about them exploring the potty. They may have a bowel movement on the potty. They may not. They're going to use it as much as they want or as little as they want. It's just about them getting used to it. So books, purchasing a potty, picking the words and phrases you want to use, developing a routine or not, that really is dependent on the child's temperament. Some kids are very routine oriented and some aren't. And you don't know when, if you have a routine oriented child, a temperament that kind of has they always go to the bathroom at the same time. They kind of get up at the same time. They eat at the same time. In some ways, they may be easier to toilet train because you know kind of when they're going to have their bowel movement. So I keep saying that because that's usually the first thing a child does is they'll release a bowel movement into the potty. They may master that before they actually even urinate on the potty. So that's some of the preparation things that kids can do.
I'm wondering, is it unusual for it to go the other way around? Because I know I'm still in the process of potty training my almost 4-year-old. He's maybe between 3.5 and 4 years old now. And, he has always peed in the potty. But the idea of going poo-poo in the potty is, he's having a really hard time with that. So I'm almost the exact opposite of what you just mentioned. So
Thank you. That question always comes up, Sunny, in every workshop. Yes. And it's funny you referenced a boy because this may be a wives' tale, but it's kind of what we hear. Boys toilet teach a little later. And then there are children who are afraid of defecating. They actually are afraid of it. And this is this is one of my favorite quotes from the talk is you never get into a power struggle over what goes in a child or what comes out because you will lose that power struggle. And usually every class I have some parent who is having power struggles with the defecating and the pooping. The child's not doing it. They may have been toilet taught and urinated on the potty for 2 years. And it's usually parents are very anxious because it's either they want to get them into preschool or they're having another child. They don't want 2 in diapers. And that kind of pressure puts pressures on kids and they don't do well under that. So I always have said, if your daycare provider doesn't allow a child to be in diapers, then pick a new daycare provider. Let go of the fact if you're having another child that you might have 2 in diapers because children feed off our anxiety of that. So some kids, and it's just kind of my general, after doing this 23 years, I think children who have trouble defecating probably had constipation at a very primal age, somewhere as an infant, as early childhood, and it was painful, and they remember it being painful. So just time and being calm and matter of fact and encouraging is what you do with those type of children. I've even had it where, your child is how old again, Sunny?
About 3.5, 4.
Pretty verbal. So I've even suggested, because some parents, they have them in underpants and they're pooping in their underpants all the time. And then the parents are frustrated because they're pooping in the underpants. So I suggest that the parents say to the child, I'm unwilling to keep cleaning up your poopy underpants. It's messy. It's messy for you. It's messy for mommy and daddy. So how about you let us know when you have to poo, and we'll put a diaper on you. And as soon as you poop, we'll wipe you, clean you up, and then we'll put you back in your underpants. And I know it sounds crazy and people go, why would you do that? Well, their children, it totally releases the anxiety everybody has over pooping in pooping in their pants instead of pooping on the potty. So there's another thing that I've told parents, that you, at this age, you never ask a question for which no would be the answer, except one. The parents that I've had in say, many parents, and I don't know if this is true for you, Sunny, but they get very anxious about their child still not being able to poop on the potty. And it may be, again, because of daycare issues or another child being born, but it just because maybe they're fearful that the child will be pooping in their pants the rest of their life. I don't know. But there's a lot of anxiety that comes over that. So and parents talk about it all the time, and they maybe reward. Well, every day there's usually some conversation about pooping in your pants and pooping on the potty, and let's not do this anymore, and you know better, and all these things. So what I always tell parents is once a month, on the first day of every month, so we're coming up to March, if you have one of those children, you would say, your daddy and I know you're ready to start pooping on the potty. Are you? If the child says no, you don't say another word until April 1st. That'd be April Fool's Day. So your daddy and I know, so the first statement is really important. Your daddy and I know you're ready to start using the potty. Are you ready? So you're affirming and encouraging that child. And you're giving the power to them, because, again, you don't want to get in a power struggle of what comes in and what goes out, because you will lose that. I've had parents come in where they're on suppositories and laxatives and all kinds of things because the child's withholding, because it's become a power struggle with the parents and the child, and you don't want to get to that place. So you just ask once a month, and I guarantee and I always have challenged every parent that's had that struggle, please call me if they're in kindergarten and they're still pooping in their pants. And no one has ever called me. And I'm really an accessible person, and I think they would. So it's a little bit of us letting go and, kind of not getting in that power struggle, trusting the process, knowing they will master it at some point. That was a great question, because it gets into a whole area, Sunny. So just be patient. And if you need to ask that question, ask it once a month. That's it. Don't even talk about pooping on the potty the rest of the month.
I'm going to have to try it. I'm motivated. I'm motivated to do this. Okay, so let's go through the different steps, the most important steps. Again, we've got a handout on the website about this, but what are some of the most important steps? You mentioned introduce the idea, and we kind of talked about that as far as preparing the child. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, and then you also would say to the child, it's your dad and I feel it's ready, your time to start using the potty. So we're going to start on this day. And for some kids, my son was this way. I don't know how long he would have peed and pooed in a diaper. But he was like 3.5, 4 around when I started the process with him. So it took my suggestion and introducing to it. And you want to be positive and, again, not ask a question. The only question I ever say to ask a toddler is the one I gave previously, but you just make a statement. We think you're ready to start using, wearing underpants and using the potty. So we'll start later this week. So it's introducing the idea a little bit. You would call off the procedure with your child if, let's just say, someone passed, someone that was close to them, a grandma died, or maybe they had a really bad week at preschool and they seem out of sorts. So you don't want to start the process if they're out of sorts or there's been something that's kind of changed in their life. Maybe they started a new preschool. You don't want, or a new baby's coming. You don't want to start the process then. So you would call it off. So even if you set up that on Wednesday you were going to do it and then something happens in the interim, then you might want to call it off just put it on hold for a couple weeks. And then, then you would restart it.
What happens, Noni, what happens if you're in the process of doing it and something like that happens? Do you continue, or if anything is going to derail them, just put it on pause? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, if they were in the process and they showed a lot of success meaning no more than one accident a week, I would stick with it. And that's an important thing to know. I know within the handouts that I gave, there are regressions. There are setbacks for children. So they may be actually wearing their underwear. Say you toilet taught them at age 2 and now they're 3 and now they have a new baby, and you will see regressions. That's one of the areas that they regress in, but you don't plop the child right back into diapers for that. So if they're well in the process and something happens, don't pull back and put them back in diapers. That gives a child that you really don't have the faith or belief that they can do it. And, regressions will happen. Just know that you're calm. encouraging, and you help them through that process.
Okay. And when the big day comes, what do we do when the big day comes?
Well, some people say take the child to buy the underwear. I would prefer, and the way I did it is the big day was Monday. So Jimmy and I went and bought the underwear over the weekend. So that what you let them do is you let them try on the underpants and let them admire themselves in the mirror, and then you tell them that they're going to have to put their urine and their pee-pee and their BMs in the toilet or in their potty. And because these are underpants, they don't act like diapers. And so what you want to do after they first put on their underwear, you want to lead them to the toilet and just say, and they might be being toddlers that they are, they might say, I don't want to, no. So you can say, you want to use a choice. Do you want to use mommy's potty or your potty? Do you want to go try on the toilet now or in 2 minutes? Or you can even just say, let's just give it a little try. If nothing comes out, that's fine. We're just going to give it a little try. So then you try to have the child urinate into the potty. And, if they're successful, you just want to say, great, you see, you did your pee-pee in the potty, and you just encourage them. And if they don't, then you just take them back out and you just remind them one more time. You don't want to harp on it. Remember, these are diapers and they won't act like diapers. So you'll need to tell mommy or daddy, or you need to take yourself to the potty, depending on the age of the child. I remember my son, he was on an older end, really. He was 3.5. And I can still remember it clear as a bell. We're in the kitchen. He's in his little jeans and he's standing there in the morning and he just looking at me and he goes, Mom, my pants are getting wet. Yes. Now, my mother said he was so brilliant, he would be toilet taught by 2. Which grandmothers sometimes do that. So, and I started the preparation phase with him probably by 18 months. In fact, I even have a picture of him wearing his grandma's glasses, reading his potty book on his little potty. So he had 2 years of preparation. He still was amazed that urine was flowing down his legs. So, it's through those, kids need that actual experience of realizing that these aren't going to act like diapers, because diapers absorb all the liquid. So if that happens, and it probably will, then you just take the child to have them find their clothes. And again, you want to put them in a low drawer, put them where they can reach them, help them if they need to, especially if you have a younger child, you might need to assist a little bit more, but have them change their pants and then just remind them once again, remember, you're not wearing diapers. So, this is where you're going to go potty. And then you wait for accidents because they will happen. I do want to share that my son did not have one success his first day. He's 3.5. He'd been prepared 2 years, not one success. But I knew he was ready. The next day it was maybe 3 accidents. The day after that, 2. So, some children, I've had some people come to my class, and this one woman, her first daughter said, I don't want to wear diapers anymore. She was about 2. They put her in underpants and she did not have one accident. She came back to take the class because there had been some regressions because a sibling was born. So the one thing I think is so important parents need to realize is every child's unique. Just because your firstborn did it this way doesn't mean your second child will be this way. You want to uniquely, each child's different. So, Jimmy was really not completely successful that first week until the end of the week, but I stuck with it because I knew he could do this and he just needed encouragement and some direction and that sort of thing. So be real relaxed about accidents. Again, it's only a little water. You don't want to, make a big deal about it and shame the child about that.
Okay. And then what do you do after an accident happens?
Well, again, you want to lead that child. You would want to see if they can get any more, let's say it's urine, see if you can pee, because you want to tell them, again, affirm where it was supposed to have gone. And then you help them kind of get cleaned up and get into some new clothes. What you want to do is you want to put them back in diapers for naps, because sleeping control happens later than waking. And you would want to put them in diapers at night as well. You would just let them know that when you're up from your nap, we'll put you back in your underpants. And when you wake up in the morning, we'll put you in your underpants. And so then you kind of just want to gauge how the child's doing. And if they're really successful, and again, like I said, my son was really not accident free for that, did not have a lot of success to this end of the week. Some kids are successful that very first day. So if the accident stays within realm, then you keep them in underpants, and don't yank them out of underpants and put them in diapers at the first. If you notice after about 2 or 3 days, they don't seem to understand what's going on. They seem kind of bewildered. Then you might want to check in and say, maybe I started this too early. Then you would stop, put them back in diapers, and maybe restart it in a couple months. So again, that might be a child who's not emotionally ready to be in underpants, because it also is an emotional milestone for kids.
And so the length of time it takes, because I know you get this question a lot, and I know it probably does depend on the child, but when we Google and we look up information online about this, some people are touting, hey, you can get it done in, 2 days over the weekend, and we get these ideas in our head. I think that's where we struggle as parents, because we're thinking there's people that are doing this in 2 days or a weekend or whatever. So, overall, what advice do you have for parents that really kind of want to put a time stamp on this, as far as how long should this actually take, and how do you know when to back off because this just isn't working out?
If you're a parent that has a 2-day child, great. It will work in 2 days. Again, just sharing that example of that woman that came in that said her 2-year-old said, I don't want to wear diapers anymore. I want underpants, and never had an accident. So I think when you have these, it's like the Ferber baby, the one that you can get them to sleep. Not every baby's a Ferber baby. I think when you generalize who children are, you put stress on the parents and stress on the kids. And I can tell you right now that anxiety on either end does not help the toilet teaching process. You need to be relaxed. In the book, all the information comes from the book of toilet teaching from Joanna Cole. And she said throughout the book, a calm, matter-of-fact attitude. You gotta know that your child will not be, unless there is some physiological problem, wetting their pants when they get to school. They will know how to pee and poo in the potty. So I think that my experience is this has always been the most popular talk, and it's because all the anxiety parents have. Be kind to yourself. Again, you will tell, your child. If the child really seems confused and bewildered, they're not ready. There's also some kids have more accidents. I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom, and we would go to the zoo. We would go to the wild animal park. We would go to the parks. And my son tends to be very distractible. So if I did more reminders with him than maybe someone else might, and I put a lot of change of clothing, so that if he wet, we didn't have to freak out. There was a new pair of underpants and a new pair of jeans in the backpack that we could change him into. So there was no shaming, and it's really important not to do any shaming around this. I actually had a woman who works with adults who have toileting issues, and she can always trace it back to some sort of form of more punitive toilet teaching, which you don't see a lot in our society today. One of the things we do a lot with little girls is we take them to the bathroom a lot. And it creates kind of not being able to let your bladder get full enough, because it's okay to have a full bladder, to be able to release it. And she sees issues around that. So I think, and we tend to not be so much that way with boys, I think, because, they can pee in a lot of places girls can't, So, we're always concerned about the little girls getting to the bathroom. But I think just be gentle with yourself and gentle with your kids. And again, unless they're showing some sign that they have they're just clueless about the process on some level, just keep doing it. And I think my son was still having accidents till probably kindergarten. He would just forget, and one of the things kids do, you'll see them, they'll be playing and they kind of put their legs together and kind of squeeze. And it's their bodies telling them it's time to urinate, but they're so engrossed in whatever they're doing, they don't want to leave that activity. As a parent, you'd want to come up and say, your body right now is trying to tell you it's time to go potty. Or you see kids kind of hold the back of their bottom because they're about to poop and they didn't recognize the signals. So the most important thing is to realize this is a body function. We all do it. We all learn to do it. And you want to get your kids tapped into what's going on in their body, the signals their body's giving when they have to urinate or defecate. The other thing I want to add real quick is about rewards. When people bring up rewards, I always say, so are any of you women still giving your husband a Snicker bar after they poop? And everybody laughs because it's silly. My son, he was not toilet teaching. I was actually doing talks for Parent Connection in the morning. I had a friend babysit him, and her daughter was toilet teaching. And when I came back, I said, well, how did everything go? And she goes, oh, great. But, he kept going to the bathroom. I said, what? And then she told me that she gives M&Ms every time her daughter went to the potty. So my son just got smart. If I go sit on the potty and just sit there and smile, I'm going to get some M&Ms. So getting M&Ms is not related in any way to the potty. Getting a toy from Target is not related. This is a simple body function human beings do. So we just need to teach them and prepare them for that and be calm and encouraging.
Now, to go along with that, though, I mean, there's obviously other things that they need to be doing as part of the potty process, like washing their hands and pulling up their pants and all this kind of stuff. I've seen parents do like little reward charts for stuff like that. Is that something you would encourage?
No.
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 Okay.
And it's funny, it reminds me though, I also have another handout about the learning period. And so what I can do is send that off so that parents can look at that, because that is the unexpected time. Like, some children, if you start the process early, say you have a 2-year-old, they're not going to be as proficient pulling their pants up and down. So you're going to need to help them a little more versus a 4-year-old. So if you have a 2-year-old that you want to toilet teach, you want to make sure that they have looser clothing that they can pull up and down, not something that snaps and zips. When you think about toilet teaching a 2-year-old, their bladder still isn't as mature as a 4-year-old's. So you're probably going to have more accidents at 2 than you are at 4, because the bladder gets larger and larger. I'm not sure if I've got this factoid correct, but I heard that the children's internal organs are not fully developed till adult size till 7. So that gives you some sort of idea about, that the earlier you start, the more you might have to be on top of it with kids. But yes, washing hands usually happens around 2 or 3. You don't want to prolong it. Also, girls sometimes around age 3 want to stand up and pee. So they might exhibit that. Kids want to close the door at about 3, saying don't come in because they want their privacy. But you would encourage the washing the hands. Like one of the things you could say is, first we're going to go use the potty, then we're going to wash our hands, and then we'll call grandma. And it's not about a reward, but it's sequencing the events so that they can understand that. Or first we're going to go potty, then we're going to wash our hands, then we're going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So it's all about kind of telling them this is kind of the process. You don't start teaching a child to wipe their own bottom till about 3 or 4. They don't have the coordination. So if you started your child at 2 and he or she is in underpants and you need to assist them to wipe their bottom until about 3 or 4, then you would start that process of teaching them how to do that.
What about just general praise from the parent? Just good job, keep at it kind of thing. I mean, or should we really just be keeping this just like this is another thing that we do on this is part of life and not to put so much focus on it? What would your recommendation be?
Well, I think there's a difference between praise and encouragement. And I think feeling encouragement, even as adults, we want to feel encouraged. It always feels good when a friend or a colleague or somebody gives us some sort of encouragement. So encouragement's always good. We tend to be an over-praising culture. In fact, there was T. Barry Brazelton. He's a pediatrician who's written a lot of books about developmental, from birth to 5 developmental milestones. He studied there was an African tribe that didn't use any praise whatsoever. And developmentally, they were like 6 months ahead of American kids, because here's what happens. So as soon as the child rolls over, we all, oh, look, he rolled over. Look at him. Oh, let's take a picture. Let's call grandma. What it does, the child will literally stop and look at the adult. And what they're doing is they're looking from cues from oh, wow, look at the adult. Look what they just did. That was good. I got to do that. And they stop their own internal process. So what would be more like if you see a child roll over, some kids are surprised. So what we would say is, wow, you look surprised you roll over, or you look excited, or you want to reflect what you see in their face. So when we praise too much, it's about us, not about them. And this is their process. So I'm always all for encouragement. You look like you're really proud. You went on the potty. Give it back to them. Don't make it about us. Praise is usually about us putting our energy and our things onto them versus encouraging them.
All right. Noni Levi, thanks so much for being with us today. Some great points. And as Noni was mentioning during her talk, we have at least a few different handouts. Sounds like we may be adding more, which is awesome.
Some more.
Okay, perfect. So we'll put them up on our website. You guys can download them and just use them as a guide as you're going through this process. And thanks so much for being with us today for today's hangout. Again, this was something that we've been doing this like a couple times a month with the Parent Connection and Scripps Health, always trying to give you the best information out there. Don't forget to check out SanDiegoParent.com for more information about the Parent Connection and Scripps Health, as well as newmommymedia.com. That's our website. And we've got a lot of great audio podcasts that are geared towards not just potty training, although we've done plenty of episodes on potty training, but everything to guide your family all the way pregnancy through kindergarten, basically, is what we focus on. So thanks so much for being with us today for our hangout, and we'll see you next time.